Sensory integration dysfunction. You may be thinking, what is that? Sensory integration dysfunction is a neurological dysfunction between the central nervous system and the sensory system, which you may know as to see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. It's also known as sensory processing disorder. Now, our sensory system can be divided into 5 parts: tactile, vestibular, proprioceptive, visual, and auditory systems. The tactile part of the sensory system is comprised of nerves under the skin surface. Those nerves transmit neural signals up to the brain to be processed that come from sensations including touch, pain, temperature, and environmental or body pressure. These sensations are important for perceiving the environment and protective reactions for survival. Yet, if someone has tactile sensory integration dysfunction, the brain cannot process signals in a standard way. So gentle touch feels like pins and needles. Severe injury may not be given the appropriate value. The individual can be easily irritated or may overreact to intense weather and have over or no response to hot and cold. The vestibular part of the sensory system contains structures in the inner ear called semicircular canals. These detect movement and changes in head position, are critical for proper balance and response to gravity, and provide neural feedback that supports differentiating between a stable and an unstable surface. With a vestibular sensory integration problem, the brain cannot understand signals from the vestibular system. From that confusion, balance can be skewed, the ground always feels like it's shifting, and the person can have clumsy, awkward, and uncontrollable movements when trying to balance during standing, sitting, and walking. Moving on to the proprioceptive part of the sensory system, the neural receptors now transmit signals to the brain from the muscles, joints, and tendons. Proprioceptive senses provide awareness of body position, support abilities to plan and execute different motor body tasks, and neural feedback controls gross and fine motor movements. Proprioceptive sensory integration dysfunction can have symptoms like applying improper force to a simple task, difficulty with body position so balance is difficult, and many more symptoms that deal with motor movement. The last 2 parts of the sensory system are the visual and auditory units. Sensory neurons in the eyes and ears send information from the environment to the body for the brain to sort through. Like the other 3 systems, an individual with a visual or auditory sensory integration dysfunction would not be able to do that. Visual processing disorder can be as simple as mixing up letters or words to completely not processing seeing something. Auditory processing disorders can be recognized by multiple symptoms as well, like being easily distracted by noises to not being able to distinguish different sounds. You may be wondering what exactly is happening in the brain. Well, an individual with a sensory integration dysfunction will receive the signals from the senses but cannot process or organize them. When multiple signals are sent, then the brain has even more trouble by trying to integrate them. When an individual has sensory integration dysfunction, their brains have a lot of difficulty organizing signals and can make behavior disorganized. This behavior can make performing simple tasks and responding to everyday events challenging. There is a huge continuum of people that have a sensory processing disorder. Most people have some sort of processing difficulty, but a lot of what was mentioned are examples from severe cases. Possible causes of sensory integration dysfunction have been noted to be complications before or after birth, but most reasons are unknown. To help some of those with sensory integration dysfunction, scientists developed something called a sensory diet. A sensory diet is a strategic use of sensory activities to help the brain process signals. It does this by providing the brain sensory input to stay focused and organized throughout the day. Sensory diets are helpful for severe cases and mild cases. Some activities include chewing crunchy food, moving things, squeezing a stress ball, tapping your foot. The list is endless. For most of us, we are lucky that our brains don't have trouble organizing sensory inputs, and now there are more ways to helping those with sensory integration dysfunction. 'Cause you're hot and you're cold.